looking over the courses that I'm doing. So I have one class in my biology major, and it just has to be like level or above. And then the class that I need to finish out, like my psych major, is like a bio class. Can I do the same class for that?
Yeah,
Oh,
they can totally
cool.
be the
Okay.
same class.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we have rules about whether you can double dip like majors, minors,
Yeah.
but not for double majors. So
Okay.
you're to be good.
Oh wait, it's a minor. I know.
That's fine. As long as you don't do more than 2 classes that
Okay, I
overlap,
think
you're
it's
good.
just one.
Then you'll be fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, this looks promising. Mhm. Do not know how to get captions to go on that, so I'll just use the Zoom. We're gonna watch a documentary today about Alzheimer's, so. Alrighty, we will go ahead and get started. So, what we're gonna do today is watch a documentary about Alzheimer's. It's called The Forgetting. It was a PBS special, and it focuses in particular quite a bit on early onset Alzheimer's. So some of these folks are fairly young. And then don't remember. Let me look and see if it has the runtime on here. If we'll have some time to chat afterwards. 90 minutes. Okay, so no. And what we'll do is Wednesday, we're scheduled to just pass out the midterm. So what we'll do is we'll probably finish this and talk about it briefly before I hand that out on Wednesday. But it's just like, this is so much better than anything I could say to you all to really illustrate how this disease can affect families, people who have it, things along those lines.
PBS Digital.
The Forgetting, a Portrait of Alzheimer's, has been funded by MetLife Foundation.
Welcome to The Forgetting, a portrait of families struggling with Alzheimer's disease and scientists searching for a solution. For over 20 years, MetLife has been involved in the fight against Alzheimer's, and we're proud to bring you this program.
I remember her getting up in the middle of the night to go to work. You know, I'd say, Mom, what are you doing? It's 1 o'clock in the morning. She would look at me really confused, you know, and then she would pretend that she knew what she was doing, but you could tell that she didn't. Her hands are so warm. Your hands are so warm, Mom.
She constantly was hiding things, like you'd find strange things like, you know, keys in the refrigerator.
And eventually we all said, we think that Mom's developing Alzheimer's.
We knew she was going to lose her memory, but I don't think we were prepared for what transpired.
I love you. I love you, Fran. I love you, Fran.
Daddy, I don't want to.
People ask me, and so how is your sister? And I think, what am I gonna tell you? She's losing her mind.
Alzheimer's disease robs you of who you are. I don't think there's any greater fear for a person than to think, I've lived my whole life accumulating all of these memories, all of these value systems, all of this place in my family and in society. And here's a disease that's just going to come in and every single day just rip out the connections, just tear out the seams that actually define who I am as a person.
Alzheimer's has mushroomed in just the last 15 years from this relatively rare disorder to this extremely common phenomenon because so many of us are living to the ages where the risks are so significant.
It feels like you're on a constant treadmill.
Get off of me! Get off!
Gladys is operating at the level of the 4-year-old and wanting her way.
Shut up. I don't like him.
And I don't like her either.
And he can't understand that it's not her, it's the disease. But there's no escape. You know, there's no way out.
Me?
This is a disease that can affect anyone. There is not a single person on earth who is immune to Alzheimer's disease.
Ms. Fugit, do you know what the date is today?
The date?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I don't think so.
We're in the middle of an epidemic. We absolutely have to stop this disease. There's just no choice. As a nation, as an economy, as a civilization, we have to end it now.
She'd get up at like 2 a.m. and get ready for work, and then it'd be like she'd have to walk through my room to go to the bathroom. I'd be like, Mom, it's only 2 o'clock in the morning, or things like that.
Yeah, she would start a little job and she'd get everything all set up. Then she would leave, and about 5 minutes she comes back. She forgot what she had to do to finish.
She would just do the same tasks over and over again. You know, like put the toast in the oven, the toast would come out in the toaster, and then she'd put it back in the toaster. And
then she lost a lot of weight. Yeah. We thought she was just doing too much because she was working that early, and maybe it was the schedule and she was just tired.
All of this strange behavior was completely out of character for Isabel McKenna, who all her life had been full of energy and fun.
She was great. She was always smiling. The kids used to love her. She took them everywhere.
They were a great couple.
just always laughing. I mean, they did have their hard times, but you could tell how much they loved each other.
He had just retired, and they were going to do all these great things together. And it never happened for them because this disease came.
In 1990, Isabel McKenna was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
We didn't know much about it, but we'd heard of it, you know. We never thought it would happen to her. But that's what it was. Hi, Isabel. How you doing, sweetheart? What's the matter with you? Huh? Did you have a good night last night? Hmm? Tired?
No.
Nice day? Hmm? No.
It's a tragic illness
Not a nice day?
where the essence of the person slowly ebbs away. Medically, she's toward the end of it. Statistically, she's toward the end of it.
Who are you looking for?
In terms of duration of illness, is at the edge.
What's the music?
What the heck do we care?
There he goes. What do you think?
Sorry, baby.
Are you mad at him today, huh? What? Huh? Think you're having a party?
This has been a long, drawn-out thing that is, you know, worn on all of us for the past 13 years, yeah.
I really see it as torture. I really see it as somebody who's trapped and feel helpless about what we can do about that.
This is depressingly typical. It's almost a stereotype pattern, which you could superimpose hundreds of patients on this same course of illness.
It just keeps getting worse. Just keeps going on and on. Huh? Oh, I miss her. I miss her.
Alzheimer's disease is a slow and silent killer. It draws the curtains over a patient's life and pulls families into its devastating grip. For over a century, scientists have been struggling to unravel this profound mystery. Tantalizing new clues are emerging, and breakthroughs are especially critical now in the face of a looming public health disaster. 15 years ago, there were approximately 500,000 Americans with Alzheimer's. Today, there are 5 million, 10 times as many.
That's partially because we're
It used to be just this individual tragedy. Now it's this individual tragedy that is happening so many times, it's becoming a social tragedy and an economic tragedy.
Every year past age 65, the percentage of people with Alzheimer's increases. By the time you reach 75, you have a 10% chance. If you live past 85, the numbers are much worse.
Anywhere from 25% of people over 85 to even as high in one study as 47% of people over 85 have some level of dementia. That's an incredible number of people with disease.
We now have 4 to 5 million Americans who have the disease. They're estimating that the total economic costs of that, people losing their jobs, people having to give up their jobs to take care of their loved ones, all the medical costs associated with the disease, over $100 billion already, annually. But that is going to be dwarfed when the baby boomers start to turn 65. When the baby boomers start to get this disease, those numbers are going to explode.
If you look at the cost of Alzheimer's now, and you look at how many patients we're going to have in 2030 because of the baby boomer phenomenon, then it can be predicted that our entire federal budget will be consumed caring for Alzheimer's patients by 2030 if we don't do something about this disease between now and then.
But a century ago, the disease was so rare it didn't even have a name.
The term Alzheimer comes from Alois Alzheimer, who was a German doctor at the beginning of the 20th century, both a clinician and a researcher, actually. He was the attending physician at a mental hospital. In 1901, a 51-year-old woman who we know as Auguste D was brought in by her husband. She was very confused and having some hallucinations and some pretty serious paranoia as well. By happenstance, Dr. Alzheimer happened to be the person who met her first. He asked her a series of questions about her name, and she's not even really able to tell her full name. So he told her name. He spoke her name, Frau Auguste D. And she wrote Frau and couldn't get the rest. So he repeated it. Your name is Auguste D. And she wrote Augu. And again, she couldn't even remember her full name, having just been spoken to her. And she put down the pencil and said, "I've lost myself."
She was slowly decaying. She lost her ability to reason. And the classic symptoms of what we now think of as Alzheimer's were happening rapidly in this young, relatively young woman.
Alzheimer closely observed Auguste D for 5 years. When she died, he was determined to find the cause of her mysterious illness. He had a hunch that it was something more than an emotional problem.
Alzheimer at the time was doing something really revolutionary by looking for evidence for something physically going wrong in the brain to explain a mental disorder. This just wasn't the conventional thinking back then. And the thought that back then was that psychiatric disorders involved disturbances in the electricity of the brain and the magnetism of the brain and the mysterious fluids that allow us to have consciousness.
With a brand new staining technique using silver, Alzheimer made these slides of cells from inside Auguste D's brain. Looking at them under this microscope, he drew sketches of something ominous.
Something struck him in that he saw what he called miliary bodies. And these were just these large deposits of something sticky in the brain. For all intents and purposes, looked like starch. And inside the nerve cells were choked with these twisted fibrils.
These starchy deposits and twisted fibrils confirmed Alzheimer's hunch. For the first time in history, these plaques and tangles were definitive proof of a physical cause for what seemed like a mental illness. The strange disorder that had killed Auguste D came to be called Alzheimer's disease. Today, Alzheimer's disease is the leading cause of dementia and memory loss in older people.
You ready?
Huh?
You ready?
Ready for what?
You gotta go see the doc.
Gladys Fugit is 74. She and her husband Harry live in Pittsburgh. They've been married for 45 years.
I met her in Baltimore. I was in the service. And I rented an apartment in this apartment building, and she happened to be one of the neighbors. She liked to dance. We'd do that kind of stuff. And I danced the first dance with her. And after that, she stayed on the floor, and she danced. And so we had a real ball. She was in my terminology, she was a good-looking chick. And easygoing.
Okay, you slide back a little bit here. I want to see your knees kind of be right back against this so it can get. Okay, that's what I want. Does he take pretty good care of you, Ms. Fugit?
Dr. Stephen Dukoski runs the Alzheimer's Research Center at the University of Pittsburgh.
This is good. Now, I'm going to give you 3 things to remember, and I'm going to ask you to remember them in about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask you to tell me what they were, okay? A house, a lake, and a shoe. Can you say those for me?
A house, a lake, and a shoe.
Good. I'm going to ask you to tell me what they were in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, but in the meantime, we're going to move on to a couple of other things.
Okay, that's all right.
Can you spell the word world for me?
W-O-R-L-D.
Great. Can you spell it for me backwards?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you got it forwards. You want to give it a try?
Well, let's see. L-R-O-D.
Okay, good. I'd like you to close your eyes for me, and I'm going to put some things in your hand, and I don't want you to look at them, I just want you to feel them and tell me what they are. So here's something, you tell me what this is. Don't look at it, just tell me what it is.
I can touch it like
Yes,
this?
ma'am. You can do anything you want except look at it.
Oh, I didn't look now.
Yes, you did. Okay. Now you close your eyes again, and I'll put something else in your hand.
That's something flat.
Something
Is it a
flat?
Key? Is it a key?
No, it's not a key.
Is it a coin?
Mm-hmm. Very good. So she's able to identify things in her hand, and she gives me the name. She doesn't hesitate. She didn't say that is something you open a door with. Ms. Fugit, a few minutes ago, I asked you to remember 3 objects. And then I said, I'm going to ask you in a few minutes what they were. Do you remember those 3 things? Do you remember me asking you? Do you remember me telling you 3 things?
You told me something, but I don't remember
But
what
you
it
don't
was.
remember what they are.
No.
This is, I would say that she's in the middle of moderate Alzheimer's disease at this point in time. She's, her memory and her ability to keep instructions in memory very long is impaired. She can spell the word world forward with no trouble, but she cannot turn it around, which is a memory requiring task for the short term.
She doesn't remember late in the afternoon what we've had for breakfast or if we've had breakfast. Did you eat breakfast this morning?
Not much.
Yes, you did. What did I give you for breakfast? What was it?
Something you had cooked.
Yeah.
That she pretty much is always denying that there's anything wrong.
That's absolutely. And
That's
the
right.
difficulty is,
You always say.
the difficulty is that she's been this way all of our relationship.
Okay. The difference now is that she doesn't deny this because she is denying it like she used to deny other things. Now she just, the part of the brain that lets you recognize that you have a thinking problem isn't working.
That's right.
And that's okay.
In the early years of Alzheimer's, Gladys is not yet seriously impaired.
In what? In Germany.
But with each day that passes, the inevitable progression of the disease is slowly erasing precious and irreplaceable memories.
Check with Fran.
A friend.
Yeah, that's Fran.
Who's that down the bottom?
That's you and Kathy. That's you. The disease is robbing us of what little time that remains. And it looks bleak and frightening ahead. The future is not someplace I'm madly dashing to get to. But it's going to get me whether or not I'm ready for it. I've just got to try and be ready for it when it gets here.
The specter of dementia in old age has fascinated and terrified human beings for all of recorded history. As far back as 2800 BC, an ancient Egyptian myth tells the story of the sun god Ra, all-knowing, all-powerful, and immortal, but in a cruel twist, losing his memory and living forever in a senile haze. It's one of the most basic human fears, the loss of memory, the loss of self.
It's the ultimate attack on a healthy person, to lose the very essence of who you are. I will no longer know who I am. My family, friends, and loved ones will no longer know me as myself.
Shakespeare unmasks the dread of dementia in King Lear, when the aging monarch can't seem to remember his daughter or his close friends.
I fear I'm not in my perfect mind. He thinks I should know you. I know this man. Yet I am doubtful, for I am merely ignorant what place this is. And all the skill I have remembers not these garments, nor I know not where I did lodge last night.
Memories are who we are.
Do not laugh at me.
And there is something existentially terrifying about having your memories ripped out of your head, which is basically how this disease begins.
The human brain is a miraculous and complex organ that controls every breath, thought, heartbeat, and emotion.
We have 100 billion neurons, or nerve cells, probably about 100 trillion synapses, or connections between nerve cells. So what you have is this incredibly intricate neural network.
This amazing network is maintained by carefully orchestrated chemical and electrical signals traveling a massive system of nerve cell pathways. New thoughts and memories are the result of information traveling between synapses as they form, dissolve, and form again. The symptoms of Alzheimer's begin when this delicate signaling system is disrupted. The first pathway that's attacked leads to a part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is crucial to memory. Sticky plaques form between nerve cells and block communication. Then, long, stringy tangles choke the nerve cells from the inside. Neurons can no longer talk to one another, and synapses begin to disappear.
What's truly amazing about a disease like Alzheimer's disease is that the system is being so ravaged in terms of loss of mainly synapses, and memories can be completely lost forever. And believe it or not, that's a very difficult thing to do in the brain, given just how much backup there is in the network.
As the hippocampus is slowly destroyed, fewer and fewer new thoughts are able to form, and the forgetting begins. Very gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, names and words are hard to recall. Familiar places may seem totally foreign. As the plaques and tangles continue to spread, neurons start to die, and the brain begins to shrink. Everyday tasks and familiar actions are suddenly impossible. By the middle stages, several years into the disease, millions of synapses have dissolved away, and areas of the brain controlling emotion are hit hard. Personality changes, anger, paranoia, and fear can erupt without warning. Eventually, almost all of the brain is taken over. Long-term memories disappear. Loved ones turn into strangers. Speech fades into silence. Finally, the parts of the brain which control our most basic functions, swallowing and even breathing, shut down. The time between diagnosis and death is anywhere from 8 to 20 years.
Okay, next case.
In hospitals and clinics across the country, doctors see hundreds of thousands of new patients each year as the epidemic of Alzheimer's continues to grow.
in her interview, she doesn't come across as terribly paranoid. So it is interesting that she's got that symptom and that atrophy.
At the University of Pittsburgh, most patients come after years of minor forgetting, when family members finally face the fact that something's wrong.
She had forgetfulness, often forgetting where she put her glasses or her keys, and this has increased gradually.
Sometimes it's odd changes in behavior. Sometimes it's intermittent. He couldn't quite straighten out the checkbook. That had never been a problem before. She couldn't quite recall exactly how to do something in the kitchen. That had never happened before. But usually, because this disorder starts so slowly and moves so slowly, especially in the beginning, people usually associate those changes with a senior moment or some kind of change of aging, and we pass a lot of it over.
Okay, and I would start here with the 2. The 3?
Everyone with a memory problem wants to answer the critical question. Is it normal aging, or is it Alzheimer's?
Let's start again. Put them flat and turn one palm up. That's it, you got it.
Rita Scully has come to Dikoski's clinic for a series of tests to find out.
You're getting there.
This is pathetic.
Keep the pattern going all the way across the page. You can stop. That's good. Alzheimer's disease affects the brain in very specific ways. So we expect that the ability to learn new information, to store it and retrieve it will be impaired as one of the earliest signs of Alzheimer's disease.
Okay. Mrs. Scully, I'm going to read you a short paragraph, and when I'm finished, I want you to tell me as much of it as you can remember. Crystal Lake Lodge. 2 women avoided death today when their motor-driven hot air balloon was forced to crash on a snowy mountain 20 miles from the border of Yellowstone National Park.
We're looking for evidence that the individual can take in new information, then can store it for a period of time, and then when asked to, can bring it back into consciousness and give it back to us.
I don't know if I could even, I don't know if I can even remember anything. There were some women mentioned, and was it Yellowstone National Park?
Patients with Alzheimer's disease have difficulty encoding the information. It isn't the case that they get the information in, but then after 30 minutes have lost it.
I'm sorry to say, but that's about all I remember.
That's okay.
They actually never got it in the first place. So when you go to retrieve it, it isn't there.
Did I fail?
Well, don't worry too much about that.
Probably the beginning of Alzheimer's. Is that it?
Well, we all worry every time we forget something. We all worry every time we can't come up with a word that we want. You don't need to worry about those things necessarily. They are, unfortunately, part of the normal aging process. And I always tell everybody that they're even allowed one major mess up. So, for example, from my own sort of memory, losing the car in the parking garage, going to the ATM machine and blanking on your number. Because that happens to me, I think that's normal. You're allowed 1 or 2 of those, but once they really start to impact your ability to function, then is the time to start worrying.
The changes are very slow. You know that from the way it came on and got worse.
The tests Mrs. Scully took were specifically designed to sort out the differences between normal aging and a more serious problem. She's here with her son to get the results.
You remember when you had your testing done, your grades are here. Okay.
Final exam.
So you got some A's and some C's. Yeah. Okay. We think this is early mild Alzheimer's disease. We don't have a cure for this. We have medicines that we think you should start, which we hope will help to slow the clinical progression of the disease. We don't know what an effect it has on the overall brain changes.
What's the long-term prognosis as far as how long do you think she'll be able to still maintain her own independent living conditions, etc.?
That's what I'd like to know.
So I think she's okay for now, and we would reassess this probably every 6 months as far as how independent can she be. But during the time that you're doing well by yourself, somebody should be checking in. The difficulty, you're fortunate to have your family to be so concerned. We don't always have that.
I only had one boy, but I'm sure glad I had him. I picked a big size, though, you noticed that.
We were very close, so it's time for me to step up and do what I have to do to take care of her. And I know it's going to be tough, and there's going to be some bad times and some tough decisions to be made. I just pray that I have the strength to make the right one, that's all.
Right now, there is no treatment that will stop Alzheimer's, and no proven way to prevent it. But at 29 Alzheimer's disease research centers in the U.S., scientists are searching for a way to stop this ferocious disease.
If you could slow the disease down or delay its emergence for 5 years, because of the late age at which the disease occurs, you could decrease by 50% the number of people who would have the disease 40 years later. If you could delay it by 10 years, you would virtually wipe the disease out, because the vast majority of people who get it within 10 years of the end of their life from other reasons, from other causes. So those are right now still our targets.
The targets inside the brain are the plaque deposits. Researchers think they start to form long before there's any noticeable forgetting. So if they could figure out a way to prevent them from forming, or to clear them out of the brain, maybe the cascade of destruction could be stopped. But being able to see plaques inside the living brain has eluded the grasp of scientists for over a century.
The plaques are about the size of perhaps a couple of individual blood cells laid side by side. So you couldn't see them on a scan. You can't see tangles either because they're inside neurons themselves. Both of them are well beneath our ability to magnify an MR scan.
Until scientists can see the plaques, developing drugs takes years, because the only way to tell if something is working is to wait and see if the patient's outward symptoms get better or worse. So Dikoski's team came up with a bold plan to try to create a new chemical compound that they could get inside the brains of living Alzheimer's patients, something that would bind to the plaques so that they could finally see the invisible enemy.
Your magic bullet would get into the brain well, find exactly what it wanted, stick only to that, and if it wasn't stuck there, all of it would leave.
But that would prove to be an enormous challenge. The brain is protected by an intricate system called the blood-brain barrier. It's designed to keep most of the substances that enter the body out of the delicate blood vessels in the brain. Most molecules are either too large or the wrong chemical composition to get into the brain. So the new compound would have to be something never achieved before, a perfect balance of ingredients that could get inside the brain and find its target, the plaques. And there was another critical issue: timing. The compound would have to stay in the brain long enough for doctors to do a scan that would show the plaques. But then it had to clear out of the brain quickly to be safe enough to use on living patients.
The trapeze act of making a compound like this, to get it in, to get it to stick, stay there long enough to light up, and then get out, is incredible.
For almost 10 years, the small group of chemists at the University of Pittsburgh tested hundreds of compounds, and one after the other, they failed. But Dikoski's team was determined, because they know that the only way to stop the coming epidemic is to speed up the process of finding effective drugs. And the only way to do that is to be able to see what's really happening inside the brain.
If you can see the enemy and you know what it's doing, you can begin to see how your war against it is working. I'm hoping that this will lead to a much more successful era in treatment, of early diagnosis, of learning how to prevent the disease, which, as we know in all of medicine, is a much better place to be than treating the disease.
Push him for a little bit.
Huh?
Push him.
As Gladys Fugit moves into the middle stages of Alzheimer's, the changes in her brain are causing changes in her personality. And it's taking a toll on her family.
The real moment that puts me close to the edge is when she and our grandson
Don't pull on. Get off of me.
get to loggerheads.
Why you stop? Huh? Why you stop? Get on out of my way. You always try to know everything, don't know nothing. Get away.
I don't want to push
I do not want him to push me. I don't want him doing anything.
Gladys is operating at the level of the 4-year-old and wanting her way.
Sass as he is.
My big concern is that he can't understand why his grandmother will love him one minute and then fuss in another.
I'm not going to sway him.
Could you push me?
No, I'm not pushing you.
Look, she's not gonna push me.
And how do I convince him
Gladys, give him a push.
that his grandmother still loves him
You can't make me do nothing.
and that it's not really her fault that she is that way?
Yes, I can.
You know I'm going to spank you behind, right?
No, you're not. I've been gone by then.
You can't be gone.
I disappear myself.
You can't disappear now.
I disappear
You can't
foot.
do nothing but run them ugly mouth.
Yes, I can. I be dead.
I don't like him
And
anymore.
I don't like her either.
Liar.
You're a liar.
Don't you call me no liar.
You don't
I feel
call me no
sorry for
liar.
him, and I'm sorry for the kind of lasting impression it makes on his mind.
Wait now.
Christopher, you get me call you.
See what your grandmother wants.
I know what you
I'm
want.
not really sure what would set it off in a given situation.
I don't have to.
Now, what did I want?
I don't know.
You say you know.
I did.
You don't know nothing.
Ow, stop!
But you just a smart
Off
mouth.
of me.
And it's no way that I can predict when such a thing will occur.
No. Go get your bike. Come on.
The biggest stress I have is when it does occur.
Go get the bike.
How do I resolve it? How do I calm her down? How do I calm him down? Right after it's over, she'll forget what caused it and be unhappy, and she was the one that did it. It feels like you're on a constant treadmill. But there's no escape. You know, there's no way out.
But he's not going to do it, not if he's going to stay here, he's not.
Everybody handles this in a different way.
And I mean it.
Part of the reason that he's having the response he's having is this is new behavior for her. Of course, it's caused by the disease, but his behavior is going to have to change as well.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the Road Ahead Support Group. This is our first meeting of the new year.
Every family hit by Alzheimer's faces stress unique to the disease. To help face these pressures, Harry and Gladys each come to their own support groups.
Life is full of changes. So why don't we talk about changes? How have things changed in your family?
What bothers me a lot in dealing with this is the stress I feel if I go out and leave him at home. I always call him, and if he doesn't answer the phone, then I drop everything and go back home again. So that's
Do
the
others
biggest
of you
change.
worry about leaving your family member alone?
Yeah, I don't leave her. I drag her with me or palm her off with my daughter.
Drag her with you. Harry, has something happened that made you realize you can't leave her alone safely?
A couple of months ago, I had to take the elevator up to the doctor's office, and I got out before she did, and I thought she was beside me, and I looked, she wasn't there. I looked right behind me, and she wasn't there, and I looked and saw the elevator door close. There were 3 banks of elevators. I stood there, hoping that she'd get on the elevator and come back downstairs. And one gentleman came back down in the elevator with her. But after that, I make her get on the elevator first and make her get off the elevator before I do.
How do some of the others of you manage those scary times, the panic times?
I just rant and rave. I just keep praying for the strength to accept his personality, because there's a big personality change.
Caregivers
are really doing the best they can to care for their family member. They do everything right, and the person still gets worse.
So how are the holidays? Gladys, did kids come up, your daughters come home? And
The holidays.
we have very early stage to approaching dead middle stage. People who can not initiate conversation, but understand what you're talking about.
On the sand, and the seas
It would be like walking into a fog and not knowing what's there. Not being comfortable in the world that they were so comfortable in.
And if I go to the grocery store, I got into trouble. I was there 3 hours.
Overwhelming?
Very overwhelming because they switched the store around. I had to look for everything. I had to go to the meat, trying to figure out what I'm going to cook, how I'm going to cook it. I mean,
Gladys,
you don't have too much to do now around the house. Harry does a lot of your stuff.
Well,
doesn't
he used to. He don't now. He's lazy. I do most everything around the house now.
You are?
Really?
You said to take things on, huh?
You be doing those
How about Gladys Harry? How is she?
She's still in denial.
Still
She
in denial.
maintains that the only thing wrong with her is me. If she could get rid of me, she'd be in perfect shape. And she never does anything wrong, and she knows where everything is except when I take and move it so that she can't find it.
And Harold does the same thing, and I'm the culprit. And so from day to day, from minute to minute, you just never know what kind of a mood swing they're going to be in.
My wife tells me I'm vegetating because I do sit around a lot.
There's a lot of times that I really absolutely hate Harold. And it's not even that I hate him, I hate what's happening to him. And then I feel bad about myself because I feel that way about him.
One of the quotes I read in a book, it said, "I'm not dying, I'm just disappearing before your very eyes." And I thought, that's what it is. It's like, and when you see that blank
And it's really
look,
hard.
that's the worst.
The frustration, not knowing what was happening, and how the hell do you tell anybody that, even your family? I mean, how do you explain what's going on? They just don't.
In a way, I think it's harder on the family because they are aware from beginning to end. With the patient, eventually, they do lose the awareness, they lose the insight. But the family caregiver is the one who has to cope with the decline, with the deterioration as time goes on.
Loneliness and depression are common for the loved ones of Alzheimer's patients. Thomas McKenna has lived alone for 6 years since his wife went into the nursing home.
It was really difficult for him. He had to adjust to doing things for himself that he never had to do before. Laundry and cleaning, just things like that. He didn't know how to do, and he appreciated my mother so much more because he realized how much she had been doing, you know, all her life to run the family and to run the household. And he went through a depression. He would get really depressed, get really moody. He'd get angry. You know, why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to us? It shouldn't have happened to her. It should have happened to me.
I miss her. I miss her for talking to, because her and I could converse, you know, we could make good conversation. She could tell me about something that happened years and years ago, and I knew who they were, and there's always something we could laugh at, or something we could talk about.
Hi, Mom. Hey, Mom. How are ya?
She looks comfortable.
She does.
You have to give her a kiss.
Hi, Mom. It's Helen. Can you hear me?
She's sound asleep.
Yeah, she looks pretty happy. Hey, Mom.
Mother. Hello, it's Helen. I'm here. Your favorite daughter.
Yeah. Hear that, Mom?
That'll get her up. When I'm with her, I'm just glad to see her. She's there, she's warm, and I can touch her and talk to her and tell her things. You know, you treasure every time you go visit because she's still here.
I think she's dreaming.
Wanted to see you.
Just wanted to see your eyes, Mom.
You sometimes wonder if, you know, she can hear you, if she recognizes your voice or names or anything, but... Mom, can you hear me? In there?
She doesn't. When I hold her hand, I think she knows somebody's there, but I don't necessarily think that she knows that it's me.
It's Isabel.
I just wish I could talk to her. Do you know, like, it's been so long since I've heard her voice.
It's not surprising that she's held on because was a tough woman, but I didn't think, it seems endless now, you know, it could be another 10 years. It could be 20. That's what they say, the long goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
It's the longest. Bye, Mom.
The losses of Alzheimer's are intensely personal, but increasingly there's also a public face to the disease. The legendary film director Otto Preminger died of Alzheimer's. So did actress Rita Hayworth, boxing star Sugar Ray Robinson, choreographer George Balanchine, artist Norman Rockwell, composer Aaron Copland. And in an announcement that stunned the world, in 1994, former President Ronald Reagan revealed he had just been diagnosed.
Reagan had Alzheimer's disease in his family, and looking back at the jokes he made in the White House, it's clear that he was concerned about the possibility that he might get it. In one of the routine checkups with his White House doctor, he started out by saying, I've got 3 problems I wanted to tell you about today. The first is that I'm having a little trouble with my memory, and I can't remember the other 2. I think Reagan did a very important thing in telling people that he had Alzheimer's disease. And I think that it helped people come to grips with this emerging phenomenon that we're all going to have to face.
At a nursing home in rural Pennsylvania, a family tragically familiar with Alzheimer's has come to visit.
Hi, good to see you. It's good to see you. Look at this.
Julie Lawson has traveled from Boston with her brother, John Noonan.
Do you want to dance?
They've come to see their sister, Fran, and her husband, Steve. Fran is in the advanced stages of a rare form of Alzheimer's that strikes early in life. She's only 54 years old.
She didn't recognize me initially.
Stop it.
And then when John and I came in together, she recognized us, but barely. Fran, I love you. I love you, Fran. I love you, Fran.
Ready?
This
I got
way
it
we
in.
go. You didn't pay attention here.
I got it in. The thoughts don't last long. The thoughts are minutes.
Yeah, it's
And she's getting worse, and she can't keep her attention on anything for more than a matter of seconds. And it can be a split second sometimes.
You think?
When I could connect with her that way and I could hold her face,
it almost feels like she still has the emotional connection that she's always had.
But actually, I thought a lot of the pushing away and the whacking, I thought we were watching her kid with you.
Yep.
But she doesn't know her strength, and she doesn't know how hard it is.
I love you.
You know, one time I think you're gonna hug me, and then you're gonna push me away. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Ooh, that's a serious look. What's that about?
Okay. That's okay. You're in among friends.
Don't know why he's find one.
Really?
For me, it's been like a roller coaster.
Get out of there.
You know, 1 minute you see her goofing and laughing and joking, and then the next minute it's intense.
Get here.
You made me let go.
She has a lot less words now. You can almost see her brain shut down. People ask me, and so how is your sister? And I think,
Yeah.
what am I going to tell you? She's losing her mind.
Here it is.
She's so far away, she's not there.
But now, when I try to gear up to drive up here, it's like gearing down. It's not so easy.
This is what she didn't want to do. She didn't want to be lost in her mind like this, tortured.
You're safe.
All the things that would maintain her dignity as an individual have been lost. When Fran came to terms with having Alzheimer's, it was like a funeral. When you have a funeral, everybody gathers. But it wasn't, because she wasn't dying. But it felt like there was a death sentence delivered.
I'm losing my mind. But the essence of a person is their heart. And I hope that as I grow older, I'll still be able to laugh, and I'll still be able to hug, and I'll still know love.
She knew what was ahead of her. She knew. She took everything on as a challenge. I mean, she figured out that she could take dry erase markers and write on mirrors, and she'd be in the shower and she'd have a thought and she'd lean outside the shower and write her thought down so that when she got out, she would have it. Because she knew that in a second's moment, her thought would be gone and it would be blank.
It's like, oh, Alzheimer's people forget. It's empty. After a busy day, you know, you go home, you maybe sit down with a drink or a cup of tea or something like that, and still your mind races. Did I remember to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? You know, that's normal. I can go and sit and not have a thought in my head. This is sad, profoundly sad, that I'm going to go to get my kids at school and all of a sudden I won't know where school is. It's not what I wanted at all for them to have to live through.
When they were growing up, none of the 10 Noonan siblings realized that their lives were going to be turned upside down in a series of tragic and confusing events. It started with their mother, Julia, when she was only 39.
Mom was energetic. I can remember cleaning up the yard on Saturday. My brothers would all be dragging old leaves from the yard to the fire that we had going. Everybody was around and active.
with 10 kids, a dog, and always company. It was crazy, but it was happy. You know, up until my mom got sick. She just wasn't herself. She was snapping at us about stuff we were doing that was normal, everyday things. My father was more on edge. It was just getting scary. Being 14, 15, and 16 years old, I had no clue.
I was young enough to be in kindergarten, and she forgot me in kindergarten. She didn't pick me up. And it wasn't just like she missed an hour. She totally forgot me. It was pretty traumatizing for a little kid. People were wondering if she was having a nervous breakdown, if it was postpartum depression. She had shock treatments to try to help snap her out of the depression. They figured she was in a depression. A doctor finally diagnosed it, and we had no comprehension of what Alzheimer's was. None. She died of pneumonia. And it almost felt like we were done. Okay, we're done. We don't have to do this again. And then Fran came down with it. And that's when we realized we're not done. That's when I realized the magnitude of this disease. This is going to hit us again.
I wanted to run away. I wanted to run away. I wanted to disappear. Here it is. Now it's in our generation. Now it's in us. Who's next?
Butch just went to the phone book and started calling places. He is the one that hooked up with Mass General.
The Genetics and Aging Unit at Massachusetts General Hospital is one of the nation's leading centers searching for an answer to the fundamental question: how does Alzheimer's get started in the first place?
In Alzheimer's disease, the main thing that goes wrong is loss of synapses. What's most critical in terms of maintaining memory when synapses are lost is that you need to reestablish these synapses, usually by neighboring nerve cells. In Alzheimer's, when you lose a synapse and you want the nerve cells next door to compensate and reestablish it, well, those nerve cells are being attacked too.
Most scientists believe the key to the attack is the formation of plaques. They start with an abnormal buildup of a substance called amyloid. Amyloid occurs naturally in the body in many kinds of cells. But somehow, in the brain, it takes a toxic form that destroys nerve cells and erases memory.
Actually, that's a pretty good...
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Tansey was a pioneer in trying to figure out what caused this cycle of destruction. But he started out working on something completely different.
I got into Alzheimer's disease basically because I was building a genetic map of chromosome number 21, studying Down syndrome. Honestly, I picked chromosome 21 because it was the smallest chromosome, and as a student, I thought I wanted to build the first genetic linkage map of a whole chromosome, and I spoke with my advisor, and he said, well, pick the smallest one. You'll finish fastest. So I picked chromosome 21, not knowing where it was going to take me.
While Tansey was mapping chromosome 21, he came across an intriguing coincidence. Tissue samples from brains of patients with Down syndrome all had the same plaques that are found in Alzheimer's disease. Since Down syndrome is caused by an extra copy of chromosome 21, Tansey had a hunch that if there were a gene causing Alzheimer's, it might be on that same chromosome.
Chromosome 21 was, back then was my baby. It was before, this was pre-Human Genome Project, and I had the map of chromosome 21. So if it was chromosome 21, it was like, okay, I'm going to find it then. That's my chromosome. So these are the original experiments that were done in 1985, 86 to isolate the first Alzheimer's gene, the APP gene. Each one of these little dots represents a spot on a petri dish where you might have the correct gene. This is how we did it in the old days.
The tiny spots turned out to be a major discovery, a gene for a protein called APP.
What APP is normally doing is if this is the cell surface, this is the surface of a nerve cell, APP will stick out like this. And it's interacting with other proteins, and it can be involved with synapses to maintain synapses, to maintain memories. It's playing a vital role with just nerve cell interactions. And after a while, this APP is no good. It has to be turned over. So it will get clipped outside of the surface, and part of it will be shed.
If the APP protein is clipped in the right place, it floats off harmlessly. But in Alzheimer's disease, the clips happen not at the surface of the cell, but just above and just below. The result is a toxic fragment called beta amyloid, which starts the relentless destruction of the brain.
If you make too much of this and it's allowed to accumulate, it will eventually sequester together and form an amyloid plaque or an amyloid deposit in the blood vessel.
It turned out that the gene Tansey found on chromosome 21 was key to a particularly vicious form of Alzheimer's that strikes early in life. It had a mutation, a mistake in its DNA spelling, that produced a flood of beta amyloid in the brain. There are two other genes on different chromosomes that also have a variety of mutations that cause early Alzheimer's. These mutations are rare, but they taught researchers a significant lesson because they all produce the same disastrous result.
So what we learned about the early onset genes is all 150 mutations discovered so far do the same thing. They increase the production of beta amyloid in the brain.
Genetic mutations cause less than 5% of all cases of Alzheimer's. But it was that first gene on chromosome 21 that was the key to the Noonan family's tragedy. Their mother, Julia, had the mutation on that gene which caused early Alzheimer's. And that meant that each of Julia's 10 children had a 50-50 chance of inheriting the same deadly mutation. And by 1996, there was already another victim. Almost at the same time as Fran, another sister, Maureen, found out she had Alzheimer's. She died 5 years later. She was 58 years old. Now, Julie and her brothers and sisters all have to live with the fact that any one of them could be next.
Leaves you feeling extremely vulnerable.
Don't worry.
That only happens once. I worry about forgetting. Sometimes I get angry and I think, is this an overreaction? And then if it is an overreaction, is this the beginning signs of Alzheimer's?
If Julie has inherited the gene, her two teenage daughters might have to see their mother disappear, just as Julie did.
Look at your chins next time.
I hope to God that I don't have the gene. They'd have to go through living with me. And that's extremely painful to think about.
The discovery that the early onset genes all increased beta amyloid in the brain was a huge step forward for scientists. Only humans get Alzheimer's, but putting human genes into the brains of mice makes beta amyloid develop. This gives researchers an important tool in the fight against the disease.
Before we can study humans over years, we'll be able to study mice over months, because the whole process of amyloid deposition in these mice that have the 2 mutations is squeezed down to a small window of time that makes it practical to study.
But before they could study beta amyloid in mice, they still had to find that magic bullet, a compound that would cross the blood-brain barrier, stick to the plaques, and clear out again.
After spending 7 or 8 years working on something, going through hundreds of compounds, most of the things are failures. We get maybe 1 success out of several hundred compounds.
As much as 1 atom difference between some of these compounds makes it good enough or not good enough.
After almost 10 years of painstaking work, they finally had something that looked good in the lab, and they were ready to test it on mice. In a miniature brain scanner, a mouse was injected with what Dukosky's team named the Pittsburgh compound. The mouse slept through the moment they'd been waiting for 10 years. But the compound did exactly what they'd hoped. Got into the brain, stuck to the plaques, and then quickly cleared away.
The first thing you see that's so exciting to me is you can see the compound leave the blood and go into the brain. And then you can see it finding the outside of the plaque and working its way to the center. So we can just see the whole process is there in one little 10-second nutshell.
The Pittsburgh compound was working. But the technology at Dukosky's lab only showed plaque deposits that were big and had already destroyed parts of the brain. If there was any chance that they could prevent this destruction, they had to be able to see much smaller amyloid deposits and much earlier in the process. Back at Massachusetts General Hospital, a powerful microscope using a laser can see deep inside the living brain. So the 2 teams started a collaboration, the Pittsburgh compound and the Massachusetts microscope, to search for tiny individual amyloid plaques.
This white vessel is coated with amyloid deposits. The red things are senile plaques, labeled with the Pittsburgh compound in this case. Those are the troublemakers. We really took a leap, put a lot of time and effort into doing this, and to actually have it work was just amazing.
And what they want to do next could be even more amazing. They will try the Pittsburgh compound in humans. If it works in the human brain, the stage will be set for the first time to target drugs directly to beta amyloid, and possibly to stop Alzheimer's in its earliest stages.
It would revolutionize Alzheimer's disease. By being able to directly image the plaques, we'll be able to tell when we have therapies in hand whether or not those therapies are working. Our hope is that if you could stop amyloid deposition, that you would prevent the disease, that the people would simply never get Alzheimer's disease then. And that, of course, is all of our goal.
All right, so we'll stop there for today, and then we'll probably watch the last 15 minutes or so before I give you the midterm on Wednesday. Every time I show this, which is about every 2 years when I teach the class, I look up what's happening with that compound. It's only used for research right now. It's undergoing procedures in Asia and a couple other places to get approved, but it's not FDA approved yet for diagnostic purposes on like an everyday patient in the US. And they first discovered it in 2002. This shows how slow science can be, right? And just how incredible it is that we got enough funding, right, to get like the COVID vaccine so quickly, because we did all the stuff you normally do with a study. We just did it faster because we had money. So, yeah, we'll stop there for today. The midterm is take home, but I'm passing it out in class.